Fatoumata Jallow-Tambajang is the former vice president and leading development professional and one of Africa's most seasoned technocrats with a lifetime of service to the continent and our country, the Gambia. She has been vice president and minister as well as policy advisor on women to three successful Gambia presidents. In 2016, she played a pivotal role in establishing an unprecedented coalition of 7 Gambian opposition parties, 2 independent and 4 civil society organizations that stabilized the country and ushered in peaceful democratic transition power in the Gambia. Before her transition into the government, Mrs. Tambajang had a distinguished career with the United Nations Development Programme in Africa, working as chief technical advisor in the Gambia, as well as UNIF and UNDP advisor on gender, health, and population in Liberia. She now joins us for a conversation around women empowerment, Africa Continental Field Trade Area, and aspiration to become the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission and what she intends to accomplish with that platform. Welcome to the program all the way from Gambia. It's a pleasure having you, Madam. I just want you to tell us why you want this position and when the African Union holds the election in February. Tell us about the commission and also speak about what is happening and the symbolism, of what has happened to American democracy and what we can learn in Africa. Thank you. Great to have you, man.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, thank you for the introduction. I'm humbled and honored by the introduction. And I strongly believe as an African citizen, as a Gambian national, I have a role and responsibility in contributing towards the advancement of the African agenda. The African agenda, which is 2063, which was adopted by the African Union Assembly, is an agenda that is very integrated, and it speaks to the hearts and minds and aspirations of the African people. It addresses, at least it attempts to address some of the fundamental issues affecting Africa and her people. One of them would be looking at how best to liberate Africa from colonialism and the second, how to upkeep the human rights, fundamental human rights of the African people, how to integrate political, economic, and social fabric of the African continent, and also how to, of course, by extension, how to ensure that Africa trades within herself, because Africa is endowed with resources, material, human resources, and also financial resources. Perhaps the challenge is the management of those resources. But the African Union envisages to have all that integrated in one pot. And of course, recognize that no continent is an island. They stretch their hands. The heads of states, 57 heads of states, are willing to stretch their hands to international cooperation. What is most important is that the African Union, for the first time in the history, is moving forward the agenda of the founding fathers like Nkrumah, Mohamed Sekou Touré, those who were Haile Selassie, Emperor Haile Selassie, who had a vision of having one Africa, one continent, a united continent, with independent sovereignty, independent structures that will permeate into the aspirations of the African people. My vision for the African Union, of course, dovetails with the vision of the African Union, which is to have one Africa speaking in one voice, having a sovereign independence, economic and social independence, and dealing with our own issues as a continent, looking inwardly, looking what the issues are, and bringing the heads of states, leaders of the African Union, bringing civil society, bringing all women and youth, and trying to see to speak to their aspirations and address their aspirations. The heads of state work within the assembly, what you call the assembly. And there's an executive council, which is, of course, directly responsible for the day-to-day management of the policy-making body, responsible to oversight responsibility over the African Union Commission. And the African Union Commission, of course, is the secretariat of the African Union. It is the custodian of the Constitutive Act that established. As we know, we moved from the OAU to African Union. And the African Commission is responsible for the day-to-day management of the affairs of the African Union. They look into resource mobilization, they look into programs, innovative programs. And those programs, of course, are geared towards implementing the Agenda 2063. And as I said earlier, the 2063 Agenda is an overarching agenda which deals with economic integration, looks at human rights issues. It also looks at the African trade, particularly the AFTA, which is the African Trade Agreement that was signed 2 years ago. And they're also looking at peace and security, because without peace and security, there is no development. We know that Africa has been torn by wars and conflicts, civil strife, and so forth. So they're also looking at the peace and security. They also look at agriculture, the blue economy. They look at the issue of women and children, particularly the empowerment of women. We have had so many instruments to promote the rights of women, providing equal voice for men and women in society. And I think that with my background, 35 years of background in development and in governance, I'm a very strong governance. I am very, very passionate about good governance, democratic governance. I'm very passionate about mobilizing resources, domestic resources, and of course, African continental resources. I'm somebody who likes to champion for Africa to look inward and use what she has as a continent before stretching out the arms outwardly. That's the only way we can assert our sovereignty, our independence as a continent. And I believe that I'm bringing on board for the position I'm vying. I'm vying for the deputy chairperson's position, and which is, of course, mainly one of a very key department responsible for the day-to-day administration and financial management of the African Union Commission.
Well, Madam.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, the chairperson, the current chairperson, Dr. Faki Mahamat of Chad, is running unopposed. But the expectation is that for the first time in the history of the AU Commission, the deputy chairperson will be a woman. But you have competition from Djibouti, from Ghana, from Uganda, and also from Rwanda. How strong are your chances in your own estimation? And do you think that the expectation that the deputy chairperson will be a woman will be helped by aspiration 6 of the Agenda 2063, which talks about gender parity, and which has been part of the reform process in the AU Commission since 2017?
I'm very happy that I'm competing with women. First of all, the issue of, not even an issue, but for the chairman to be unopposed speaks to itself. That is, of course, that everybody's happy with him. He has been performing, highly respectable gentleman, very quiet and posed, and very, very inclusive, team player. And of course, the criteria for him to be unopposed, as I said, self-explanatory. And according to the Constitutive Act of the African Union, if the chairman is a male or a man, then obviously automatically the deputy